Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shane. I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode 198 of the funnel, the OMG Candidate Assessment Part 2. So if you remember last podcast, I started to cover the Objective Management Group Candidate Assessment, and I kind of laid the groundwork for really this week's deeper dive into the assessment. So I'm going to go kind of page by page and just describe some of the things that are in here, the value and importance of them, and how we look at them. It would take hours to go through the entire thing in depth, and it would take a long time to kind of walk through it in the same way I do when I'm working with clients. But hopefully this gives you some insight as to why I feel this is, quite frankly, the best assessment that I've ever used myself in my career of hiring salespeople as well as helping clients hire salespeople. But before we get started, I wanted to just let you know, if you head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and you subscribe to the funnel, you'll get the show notes weekly. What we do is we send out a weekly email with everything we've published for the week, and it's our podcast as well as blogs that we've posted. You can just click on it and all the show notes are there. You can listen to it. You can watch the video. You have some choices there. In addition to that, if you subscribe over the next two podcasts over the next few weeks, we will send you a sample candidate assessment. I'll go ahead and email that to you so you get an idea on what this assessment looks like. And then maybe we can talk about doing a trial. You can do a trial assessment. So some pretty cool stuff out there with the Objective Management Group assessment. You do the trial, then we can talk about the potential candidate you're looking to hire and see how it fits with what you're trying to do. So let's go ahead and jump in. You'll learn today recommendation, your sales environment, current sales capabilities, closing, sales process, forecasting, etc. So let's talk about the recommendation, and I want to start with the first page, and just kind of let you know what that looks like. The first page is just the cover page is, look, the title, sales candidate assessment, the person's name, and then whether it's recommended or not. So we do recommended, not recommended, worthy of consideration. And underneath that will tell you something like ideal ramp-up skills, for example. The next page is the dashboard. And if you remember last week, I left off at the dashboard and walked you through that. That's a full-page graphic of pretty much everything that's contained inside the report, but it gives you a quick overview. It's really nice in terms of what it does for you, and I'll kind of reiterate that again. First of all, it's in graphic format, like I said, and it looks good, and it gives you a really good snapshot of what you're looking at with this candidate. The second piece is the little video camera icons on each one of the items within the dashboard. When you click on that video camera, I'm not sure everybody knows this, I tell my clients this, but if you click on that video camera, you get a really short video explanation from Dave Kurlan, who is the creator of the Objective Management Group Sales Candidate Assessment. So he is the foremost authority on the assessment, and it gives you a really clear explanation. So if you read something in their Outlook, and you click on that, his explanation is very strong. Now, of course, I go through and do explanations, and I teach people. You never know. You're sitting there, you're looking at it, you say, I just need a refresher. Bam, you click on that, it goes out, pulls up that video. So just keep that in mind, that's a kind of a really cool feature that I like for folks, especially for my clients, to just have in front of them when they're reviewing the assessment. Of course, they can call me, email me, and ask me any questions on the assessments that they're processing, and I'll be more than happy to get on a call with them. But that video is very, very helpful. Okay, so let's start with the recommendation page. So then as you move past the dashboard, you're getting into the recommendation. Do we recommend this person, right? And there's a bit of an explanation on what we mean by this. So, and I'll read the first sentence on that page. This assessment focuses on the likelihood of John's sales success in this particular selling role at your company. So to be clear on that, that's in the particular role at your company. We did the profile. So we're benchmarking against ideal, against the profile that you've written. They could be successful in another role and maybe not recommended here. And just as an explanation again, very clear that this assessment is how they will perform in a sales environment. This speaks nothing to personality. That's where the interview process is important, to verify what's on the resume, to go through that process. Are they a cultural fit? Do you like this person? Is this somebody you would like to work with, et cetera, et cetera? So this is strictly in the sales environment. It also talks about whether this person is trainable or coachable, and it'll provide guidance in those areas. So there's a real nice explanation of what's to come. And then we talk about, it very clearly states in there, do we recommend you interview John? Okay, use me as an example. And in this case, if it's yes, it's recommended that you interview because John meets Objective Management Group's requirements as well as all of the requirements from your role specification. So Objective Management Group has requirements that need to be met, okay, as well as your role specifications. If the wrong combination is there, they're not going to be recommended. And what do we do with not recommended? We don't interview. Worthy of consideration means worthy of the interview, means, look, there's something missing here, but not enough to tip them in the not recommended. And we remind you, it is critical that you have a formal ramp-up plan, strong sales management, and successful measurement that ensures the success of all new hires. Okay, we're telling you this is not the answer to everything. You have to have the pieces in place. It's the right assessment, good management, a formal ramp-up plan. It all works in conjunction with one another. So I've had managers in the past, in my working career, with assessments, and in my career helping clients look at it and say, well, they're recommended. It looks like we got a winner on our hands here. Wait a second. There's things that need to be done here. Okay, so it kind of touches on what, just to make sure you understand. So we look at the requirements. Do I meet the OMG requirement? Am I trainable? Minimum sales DNA of 68%. And we'll get into the DNA, okay? Because that's very critical. The sales DNA, the stuff that either supports or undermines your sales ability. That's the DNA. Does John meet the client criteria? Competition resistant, value seller, able to sell top executives, entrepreneur. Those are things that are listed and meets the recommendation. There are some intangibles that a person may have. For example, winning personality, industry expert. Maybe they're an industry expert. That's an intangible for this role. Huge book of renewal business. Extremely well known. Extremely well liked or loved. So there's intangibles we look at in this assessment to help you in your decision-making process. Okay? And then we determine whether this person confidently filled out the assessment. Now, what I mean by that is not that they were confident in themselves, that we're confident in their responses. A high confidence score indicates that we are confident in John's answers, that he answered it honestly, that he didn't try to game the system. We have measures in there to tell us if someone is trying to game it. And if we have a low confidence score and it's recommended, that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. That the answers were almost too perfect. So they compile the scores in several categories. Congruency is one of them. That's consistency in answering 11 carefully selected sets of questions. Time spent completing the questionnaire. Ideal answers. the percentage of answers that were ideal or perfect. And that's how we come up with the confidence score. Why is that important? I don't want somebody taking 6 hours to do an assessment and looking up every answer and looking for the perfect answer and writing them down and making sure that everything's consistent. That's red flag. And we tell you if we've identified inconsistent answers. And we include questions to ask or interviewing tips in that part of the assessment. So if we find inconsistent answers, we'll give you some tips on how to ask it about those inconsistencies. So we're giving you a setup here. Now, in this case, the one that I'm looking at, 68% confidence rating. That's in the range. Okay? That's in 60 or above. That's in the range. That's good. That's high confidence. Okay? If we got in the 40% confidence range, we have a problem on our hands. We also try to predict longevity, because turnover is part of business today. Okay? So we want to know how long will this person stay with you? We want to know new salesperson return on investment. This answers the question of how long a new salesperson must remain with a company in order for the investment of time and money to produce an acceptable return for that person to have an impact. So we're going to tell you the default values for ramp up. We're going to give you a break even, and we're going to tell you when they're going to provide a return on investment. So we give you an idea on what you can expect in terms of return from the salesperson. Why is that important? Well, if you have a return on investment of, let's say, a year and a half, and you really have a crappy onboarding program and poor management, you think they're going to stick around a year and a half? So you need to know what you're dealing with here. Okay, we provide you with what we call a figure it out factor, how quickly they can figure things out. I'm not going to give you every little detail that's in here. I'm going to give you the sort of the ones that I think are key. Like I said, this would take days to go through or hours to go through. Okay. Sometimes people have a really high figure it out factor. And sometimes their default values are off. So we're going to say, are they likely or unlikely to stay? Okay. And then we give you what I talked about before, what you should ask John during the interview. Okay, we tell you not to interview people who are not recommended. And some people do it anyway. So we give you some tips. Inquire about past or present professional sales training that might account for the high number of positive findings. So if we have a high number of positive findings in sales training, we feel like they have a really good grasp on this. Where are they getting this from? Maybe they went through some training. I don't know. I'm curious about that because this is something that the assessment's letting me know. So not only do you have your standard questions, and I have some stuff on my website. You can download sales rep questions. But I have some standard questions and questions that I go through, and I teach people how to ask questions and how to layer them, et cetera, et cetera. But this gives you some guidance on things you should explore with the candidate based on what we have as an outcome in the assessment. Next is your sales environment. Okay? This is simple. Okay? This just says, how comfortable is the candidate with your sales environment? So we compare what your company needs from John to do with what John is most comfortable doing. So we're benchmarking against the way you or the candidate answered the questions. Okay? Do they fit this profile? Do they fit the pricing, the competition, the resistance, the sales cycle, et cetera, et cetera? So we go through the areas of the profile, we list that out and check off where there's consistency, where they meet it. And if they fall within the score that we want them to fall in, that puts you in the recommended category. So maybe they get most of it. For example, maybe they don't have the experience you're looking for, and that's going to be a red X. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. But the point is that we go through the profile and benchmark against that. So you can get a real quick view of the responses. You're not going to see the answers to the questions, but you're going to see how they match up. Then we jump into current sales capabilities. Okay? And we provide a little graph that shows their abilities. You know, for example, in this one I'm looking at, hunting comes in very high. Closing and qualifying middle, just higher than the middle of the road. Like this person, John, has the attributes necessary for consistent and effective hunting. So if you're hiring somebody for a job that you expect them to do quite a bit of hunting, and that comes in low, you need to think about that. Even if they're recommended, sometimes it might be a worthy candidate. You have to ask yourself, is it worth the time and effort it's going to take to get them in a position where they can hunt effectively? Because I'm going to have to do some coaching and development and training. And oh, by the way, are they coachable and trainable? So you can really kind of peel back the layers and look at this and say, what do I really need from somebody? What are they displaying here? This person, I'm using John. It's not really me, because there's a negative in here. That's pretty sad. John has very few of the attributes required for selling consultatively. And it says right here, use this assessment to identify the gaps in the consultative selling competency. And it goes through qualifying, presenting, and closing. We look at 7 competencies in all to determine the percentage of each hunter, consultative, qualifier, closer, account manager, farmer, sales, posturing. And the details are found throughout this document where we touch on each one of these competencies. Okay? And we detail some of that out. And it says here, as we present our data-supported findings and continue answering these important questions, the competencies will be a consistent part of those answers. While there is much more to sales and selling than skills, strategies, and tactics, they do represent 50% of the equation. Listen to me, 50%. The other 50% is represented by sales DNA that must support the use of those skills. This is what I'm talking about. This is why the DNA is so important. Give me strong DNA and poor sales skills all day if I had a choice between high scale skills and poor DNA. I can get someone there with the sales skills much faster than I can, or someone with high DNA than I can someone with high sales skills, low DNA. The right sales DNA but few skills will always outperform salespeople with good skills but less than desirable sales DNA. Huge, huge point here. So let's talk about the DNA. Okay, this person comes in at 88%. This is strong, very strong DNA. The sales quotient, we even provide you an overall score. This is the sales quotient. That's what the sales quotient is. It's an overall score. Okay? The sales quotient encompasses all of the findings and puts a number on individual sales acumen. Now keep this in mind, and I said this last time, only 6% of the salespeople in the land are in the top category. Elite with scores of over 139%. This person scored 145. Another 20% appear in the next category. Strong, 130 to 139. Then there's weak, 115 to 129. Below 115 make up 74%, the remaining 74%. That's huge. So it's hard to find really good salespeople. Now I'm looking at a real assessment here. Obviously, I don't give names or client or anything like that, but this is a strong candidate. The summary of the selling capabilities, we analyze the specific competency, sales DNA, the use and execution of sales process. And this determines the current sales capabilities. So we put this person at 59%. So what do you think is driving them up to the 145? Very strong DNA. We look at their motivation, intrinsic or extrinsic. Intrinsic are motivated by fulfillment, satisfaction, enjoyment, love of selling. Extrinsic are money, rewards, vacations, etc. They're more effective and sort of a shorter and more heavily commissioned sales cycle. It's nice to have a good blend. This person has a good blend. They come in at 86%. A little higher on the intrinsic than the X, but still enough that I would consider this a good blend. This person has a very strong desire for sales success. So when we look at desire, we're looking at their ability in sales. We look at their commitment. They have a strong commitment towards greater sales success. That's what it says here, 60%. Again, this is in a sales context. When we look at these things, we're looking at it in sales. And when we go into detail, what does this person prefer? What are some other factors? Well, they love to win more than they hate losing. More self-pressure than being pressured. Here are some other factors. They enjoy selling. They have personal goals, meaningful goals. They have a plan to reach those goals. Those are other factors that go into it. Will this person generate new business? Hunter means that this person has the attributes required for successful development of new business. It's important, but it's not the most important component here. It's important that salespeople that have that capacity prospect consistently, that they will prospect. They don't have a need for approval. That's part of the DNA. They need to be liked. They recover from rejection quickly, and they keep a full pipeline. So the minute they get rejection, they don't curl up in a ball and suck their thumb. They get back to work. They're not a perfectionist. They're not looking for perfection before they'll do anything. Perfectionists who are hunters tend to delay because they have to have all their ducks in a row before they make a call. And everything's perfect. This person displays pretty much everything on the hunting competency scale. Uses social selling tools, attends networking events, all the things that are important, gets referrals. It explains everything that's important for consistent hunting. Will prospect, maintains a full pipeline. All the things that we need here are listed. We go through the social selling competency. What do they need to be successful in social selling? A little bit less here. Uses LinkedIn. Doesn't use Twitter that much. Is not as well connected as we'd like to see. But they're using social selling. That's part of this process. Summary. This is one of the few sales candidates who are both willing to prospect for new business and do it consistently. So we give you a summary of, hey, this is what we see. Will this person reach decision makers? We talk about that. Can they consistently get to a decision maker? Are they comfortable with that? And can they overcome that need to be liked to get to the right person? Bang, bang, bang. Hits all three. Can reach decision makers, does not need to be liked, and is comfortable. So combined with some improvements on the selling skills, a good milestone-centric sales cycle, this person will be successful. And then there's little notes on the page, little like pictures of a brain that tells you how the person responds. So this one says, if prospects are happy with their current vendor, then I can help them. That's something we have to work on. I have to call buyers before I can call on end users or decision makers. So there's some things that we can work with to drive this person where they need to be. We look at the optimized sales cycle. Does this person have an optimized sales cycle? And we look at 11 factors to come up with that. Okay? And we determine, do they have one? Consultative seller, do they get to makes decisions? Are they a qualifier? They don't accept people putting them off. They don't need to be liked. They control their emotions. They're able to discuss money. They're rejection proof, like I talked about before. They have a healthy skepticism on what's being said to them. They have the kind of supportive beliefs that support the sales process. and they have an effective sales process in place. This person is kind of moderate in the factors that support a shorter sales cycle. So this is an area, if you hired this person, this is something you could use to work with them and coach and develop them, get them to the right place. Okay? We want to know. We want to know that, right? So we can go through each page and highlight some of the things that are important. And oh, by the way, if you hire someone, once you hire them, you can convert that assessment into a full-blown sales assessment. So there's even more detail that's provided to you, but beyond the candidate assessment. And it's a great coaching tool for you. We want to know, can this person sell consultatively? We go through the sales skill sets and we touch on them and in a big way. And we highlight the things that are important. Do they ask great questions? Ask enough questions? Develop strong relationships, et cetera, et cetera. We go through each one of those, and then we give you a summary. This person has some room for improvement before being able to master the ability to sell consultatively. But some of the necessary strengths and skills are in place to support the approach. With proper sales training and coaching, John can become much more effective at consultative selling. It's huge. There's so much detail here. Can this person sell value? And we go through the whole value. Do they give compelling reasons, value buyer, ability to differentiate themselves? Able to discuss money, high threshold for money, sales-specific skills. And then we give a summary on that. And then we jump into closing. Do they have the closing competency? Okay, when people say close, can they ask for the order? It has a lot more to do with what precedes that. The factors that precede the closing step in the process. Consultative selling skills, qualifying, sales process, sales posturing, and we'll talk about that. Okay, those things play into it. But we talk about closing, and we give you a summary on that. Let's talk about sales posturing. We always measure sales, and it says it right here. Although sales effectiveness is typically measured by revenue, there is more to selling than the end result. All too frequently, the end result is simply a sum of its parts, a byproduct of a salesperson's motivation, determination, strength, skills, competency, strategies, tactics, and posturing. This table shows the qualities that support effective sales posturing. Whether John is able to effectively position products, services, and company to make a memorable first impression. So there's green, yellow, and red. Green is obvious, red is obvious. Yellow indicates that they're neither strong or weak, it's somewhere in the middle. And there's a whole list of things. Great outlook, self-image, controls emotion, takes responsibility, builds relationships early. So this table lays out what this candidate is strong with, where they're weak, or where it's kind of middle of the road. We look at their presenting skills. Today's modern salesperson should consultatively sell and present solutions to fully qualified prospects. Oftentimes, I see sales reps presenting too early in the sales process. So what we're looking for, do they present at the right time to the right people for the right reasons? And we document that. And we look at those competencies. Does this person display these competencies? In this case, it's 67%. In the sales posturing, it's 76%. So we're looking at those factors. And we bring that all together to say, how does that affect the closing? Sales process, posturing, consultative selling, qualifier, closer, presenting. And see where they're strong and where they need help. Again, this is great for questioning as you go through the interview process. As you interview somebody and you really read this and understand this, your questions can be very pointed. Take me through a typical sales process and how you get to the close and where you find you have the most impact. Okay, and then piece by piece, ask them questions about every step of the way. And you can tell if they have the building blocks. Does this match what I'm seeing in the assessment? 9 times out of 10, it will. So if you're on the fence about somebody, maybe a worthy, and you're going through this, and it's not really, it's matching this, and it's not something you want to spend a lot of time on with them, then it's perfect. Then you know your answer. Sales process. Does this person follow a sales process? Do they have an effective milestone-centric sales process? I want to know. Sales process is huge. We list that out. That's a table. We look at that and say, okay, are they wasting time? Are they doing this the right way? A good milestone-centric sales process moves the sales along, shortens the sales cycle. So we're looking at has an effective sales process, follows the stages. We're looking at that saying, what do they have here that's working and what's not? And then we provide some additional information. Do they have CRM savvy? For goodness sakes, we need to use a CRM today. You'd be surprised how many don't. And if they don't have an effective sales process in place, it's going to hurt them. Okay? And it's going to hurt the outcome here. But again, depending on the person, it's something we can work with. Okay, next we look at forecasting. Is it accurate? Forecasts are huge. I ask people all the time, would you stake your entire business on your sales forecast? Are you that confident in it? People use pipeline and they use all that information, and it's usually pretty bad. So we want to measure. If that's the most important predictor of future sales, we want to measure that. The qualifier competency helps us understand, do they qualify properly? So this is where we start looking at the qualifying. Okay, can they qualify? Based on John Strong qualifying competency, it's reasonable to believe that the pipeline and forecast will be equally predictive and accurate. So this person's good at qualifying. And the competency is strong. So it's safe to say that their pipeline accuracy, their forecast accuracy will be better than most. And we provide a summary for that. And finally, we look at, we're going through each iteration here. Can they manage accounts? I don't know if that's important to this job, but we address it here. If it is important to the job, then you'll want to know. If that's the role you're hiring for, then that's an important. Can they grow major accounts? If you're hiring somebody for major accounts, we're looking for that as well. And the farmer competency. So we touch all of it in the assessment. The assessment's roughly, it is 18 pages. And at the end of that process, what you do is you convert it to a full full sales rep assessment, which is a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper dive. Now you have that tool you can use to coach. You can subscribe to the funnel at alignment-group.com/the funnel. I want to thank you for listening to this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. This is a longer than usual podcast. This has gone over 30 minutes. I know we usually go around 20, but this is an important podcast. And I didn't want to do three podcasts on the same subject. Social media, you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/alignment group, Twitter @ShayJohnR, LinkedIn. Contact me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Again, my website. If you listen to this and it makes sense to you, go subscribe and I will send you a copy. And then go back and listen to it again and go page by page. And then email me. Tell me about your hiring process and what you need help with. I'll be more than happy to help you with assessments. I believe it requires more. I believe there's interview process, there's sourcing candidates, interview process, onboarding, management, et cetera, and I do that. But if you want to just look at this and then ask me any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. Thank you for subscribing, and until next time, keep filling the funnel.